if you had to ask me if you played any instruments, I would have guessed sax or trumpet.
I could not play the trumpet. I couldn't get my lips to purse.
What's the difference between sax and trumpet? What does your lips look like for sax?
Okay, we gotta do this.
Let's get back into it. So, you've got a certain ad budget and a tough choice to make. Google, Facebook, or both. How do you know which one is right for your business, your avatar, your budget, and your goals? I'm Josh, and this is my co-host, Carson. And on MFAQ, Marketing FAQ, we dive into real marketing questions, give expert answers, and share actionable insights we've found to supercharge your marketing by working with 273 clients over these past 10 years. So, Carson, diving right in. Facebook, Google, tons of different advertising platforms. In your opinion, is there such thing as a right or wrong channel for someone looking to market their business online?
Right or wrong channel? Okay, so you can yes and no at the same time. Like, it is such a variable question that really determines based on what your goal is. So let's say your goal, you can even include product, but let's say your goal is to drive leads, okay, to your business. So now you've defined your goal. Awesome. Now, what type of business are you? What's your niche? How do people discover you? Are you easily discoverable based on your brand, based on seeing people use your item, or are you something more, say, data analytics, and you're hyper specific to a certain subset of people, or you are a highly complicated thing? Well, the platform in which people actually like use to find you matters then, I should say. Like, what was the last time you were on Instagram scrolling through Reels and you saw a ad for a data analytics course?
Never.
Exactly. It doesn't make sense, right? But what did you see? Oh, you saw a cool brand of like a Yeti cup, or a cool summer drink, or the latest in like I thought Temu, whatever. Like, you're getting all those different things that are much more experiential based, or easy to showcase, lower barrier to entry a lot of the time in some instances. But you're not getting those like highly specific targeted things 100% of the time, because that's typically better served on a platform where someone is searching for it. There's a purpose, there's a reason for that, right? I like to say it depends on how you get found.
Okay, understood. So for that, as an example, that data analytics business, are you saying that they should, and we'll get more into the weeds of how to go through this decision-making process, but at a high level, are you saying for that data analytics, they just won't be successful on Instagram, or there are ways to be successful, you just need to have a couple things in mind?
So you can be successful on either platform. That's not a problem. You can be successful on either platform. But what it is about is actually doing and setting the right expectations per platform. So if you're going on Instagram and you're like, hey, I'm going to Instagram, I'm going to get my 100 leads, and I'm going to have a cost per acquisition of $50. Okay, that might be accurate, that might not be, depending on who you are and what the barrier to entry is. Say you require a company to be investing tens of thousands of dollars in your software. That decision's probably not being made because someone saw an Instagram ad.
Fair. Okay.
Right? The brand awareness might be there. So if you're like, hey, I need to really get my brand out and I need people to know about me, it's a great platform for it. You track different things like frequency of how often your ads getting seen, your reach can be something that gets effective, and it's really good at getting people who weren't looking for you in the moment to discover you. But if you're like, my goal is to target people who need this solution, well, Google is a better platform for that because it is literally an intent-driven platform.
Okay, understood. That makes sense. So in your mind, what makes a platform the right fit for a particular business?
It comes down to two things. So I like to look at it as Google is great when you know and there's a clear intent behind somebody's actions, right? I can be searched. I typically am something that's searched. Shopping, actually, ironically, is one of the largest shopping purchasing platforms out there.
Google?
Yeah, Google. Like shopping ads.
What does Jeff Bezos have to say about that?
I mean, okay, there's Amazon ads too. Yes, there's actually Amazon ads, but Google is still the dominant thing. You saw a great example of how the two platforms could work, but like you see an ad for one thing and it's a brand ad on, say, Meta, but then you want to actually go find the product, you might search for it on Google, right? Because Meta isn't built to search the same way, and we've been conditioned over years to search on Google, right? It's an intent platform. That's the point of their business model. And so they've also built a lot of cool technology around displaying shopping ads in general. We have a client who sells electric bikes. We run shopping ads for them. They will be 80% shopping ad penetration on what's getting shown to clients. And then the other 20 will be a mix of all the other mediums that Google has to offer to help fill in the spots of the funnel where someone might be making purchasing decisions. Whereas on Meta, you have a lot of the people who are there and they kind of find you organically. Like True Classic. True Classic is a great example. I never heard of the brand True Classic. I never would have looked up a shirt for a dad bod. I have a clear dad bod. But I would have... Yes, I have a good... yeah.
We love ourselves here.
We love ourselves here. We're super transparent and aware of ourselves at Set Sail. I have a dad bod, but True Classic was the first time I'd ever been exposed to that brand. It's a very successful meta ad platform brand because it's easily discoverable when someone isn't in the... I'm not actively looking, but what are people doing on Meta? They're looking at photos of other people, what other people are looking like and doing and performing. So an ad that speaks to a part of your body image can resonate really, really well on that. It's why you also see huge success with, oh my gosh, I just forgot every what do you call those? Makeup brand that ever exists. They all went away.
Me too.
So,
I don't know any of them.
That's a good one.
Maybelline? Maybe it's Maybelline? Is that a hair thing? I don't know. Maybe
yeah, we're definitely men.
Let's start talking about beard oil.
beard oil. I mean, that would be a brand, though, that would be on a Meta ad, right? Because it's something that there is a following, there is an entire like community around growing your beard. It's a very visual thing.
For sure.
Right? Now, if you want to grow that brand, let's say you want to grow that brand, you're going to grow that brand using Meta, and then you can reinforce that using Google because eventually after you've built enough brand awareness, you still want to drive sales and there's another avenue to do it. And that's where you start using them in tandem. But when it really breaks down to come back to the, again, original, what's best for each platform, it really depends on how your consumer finds you. Do they find you because of their search intent or do they discover you?
Okay. I definitely want to get more tactical into that, but still staying high level. Something that we do with pretty much every client that comes across our way. We always start with strategy.
Yes.
Right? We got to start with strategy. So what role does strategy play in selecting which platform to advertise on?
Okay, so strategy in marketing is necessary. You got to walk before you run. You need to plan out how you're going to do it and what you're going to do. Like, I'm a huge hockey fan. No hockey team in their right mind doesn't do a pre-scout report on the other team. You need to do marketing research on your competitors. You need to do marketing research on what you're going to do and how you're going to execute. You go to your rink with a plan in action, right? And in saying all that, marketing strategy helps you do one major thing. In our opinion, how we do marketing, we do persona-based marketing strategies where we identify who, at the end of the day, will be engaging with product service. Right? Be it you're an e-commerce brand, you're a service, whatever it is. And once we've identified who that is, we can identify what platforms that individual resonates with. And if it's both, because most people engage with both social media and Google, how they interact with those platforms, right? So the messaging you give to one individual on Google might be completely different than the message that they get from their social media channels, right? Let's take, for instance, the e-bike brand. Okay, we have an electric bike brand that we do advertising for. The way we do advertising on Google is very different than what they get on Meta, right? On the Meta ads platform, we're going to be much more about the brand and what it's like,
the lifestyle, the feel.
Exactly. And whereas on Google, we're much more targeted towards features, capabilities, and tailoring the message that comes out the other side of the ad to the age of that individual, right? So as opposed to, say, on Meta, where we will still do that to some extent as well, and it's much more about the brand and the brand story. Whereas on Google, it's much more about what you would do as you're doing your, I guess you should say, on Google, when someone's shopping on Google, they're comparing you against anyone else they can find on Google, right? You're in an active comparison stage, right? I'm going to compare this brand with this A, B, and C. So I need to make sure that my features that are getting shown off are, something that I will consider, and then hopefully you choose me over everybody else, right? Whereas on Meta, because you get discovered in the moment, you don't have a direct comparison happening that exact second. It happens later. Right? When was the last time you saw an ad for, let's say, Yeti? It's the summer. You see a Yeti ad, and you immediately saw a Brewmate ad a second later.
Yeah, like never.
No, you saw one or the other.
That's interesting. Okay. So obviously, there's a lot of thought. Strategy is a key thing that goes behind understanding which platform, understanding how to curate the messaging and what you're putting in front of the people on each one. How much of poor ad performance have you seen come down to this poor execution versus just picking the wrong platform for the wrong product, wrong business?
It's funny you say that. So you could have both be the cause of poor performance in general. Like poor execution, I like to say you could do Google ads and Meta ads 80% right and get it 100% wrong. Okay? You can do it 80% right and get it 100% wrong. And in the same boat, you could do Meta ads or Google ads 100% right, and because that's not where your buyer is at that point of what you're trying to achieve, you might get it wrong. Like, for instance, let's say you're a high ticket item. Say you cost over $500. Okay, you cost over $500, and you're a service. So like, say you're you did fitness in the past. So say you're a private trainer. Okay. Your consumer of your trading, right? Most of the time, they're where? Where's their primary time spent?
Online?
Yeah.
Instagram, probably.
Instagram. So you're going to just run Google ads. Now, are you going to be successful? If you did it 100% right, you will still have a measure of success.
Okay.
But not as much success as if you did it on Meta, because that's where that individual was. And that's where strategy is so important, because it's identifying where this message gets across best to that person. There's times where you might throw in a LinkedIn ads campaign for a specific persona that lives inside of your buyers, your personas, because that is the best channel to get that individual.
I like it. Okay. Yeah. Can you think of any notable examples of some pretty well-known businesses in the past that have chosen a certain platform and just didn't work out quite as well, or you've peeked behind the curtains and been like, why would this company do this platform, this type of messaging, and kind of just see it as a pitfall? Do you have any notable examples of that?
Yeah, so I've worked with some used car brands in the past where they sold their used cars, but they were doing their used car sales on Meta.
Okay.
Right? Now, not wrong. There's lots of people who buy inexpensive products on Meta, right? And used cars have a good marketplace for them on Meta. There's different channels and different ways you can go do that. Mm-hmm. However, what they did by going with Meta, they did it because they were like, oh, well, we know Meta and we're comfortable with Meta. It was out of comfort. It was a comfort pick. They didn't know or partner with someone who knew how to do Google ads. Well, they lost out on what we call vehicle listing ads, which is a Google-specific shopping ad built for the automotive industry. You lost out on that. You lost out on everyone who ever goes and searches used cars, top used cars, used car dealer. You lost out on, all the opportunity to do competitive bidding on car gurus, auto trader, people like that. Mm-hmm. You lose out on that because you chose the wrong platform.
Interesting. Okay. So what stage do you feel a business should consider running ads on both Google and Facebook?
It's not even a stage. So it's not a stage of the business. It is when you've done your strategy and you've identified that there's a clear reason for it, right? I like to say you either get to both platforms because of necessity or because of scale, right? On the necessity basis, you're doing it because, hey, I need to do brand right? And I need to get my thing out there, and my product or service is super easily discoverable on Meta. So we're going to turn that on right away. It's a necessity. But I also need to do Google Ads because we've identified in my persona that my brand or service or product needs that search-based capture, right? At the end, it needs that, right? So that's where it's at a necessity. At a scale is like, hey, say we started with Google Ads. We brought your Google Ads to a point of diminishing returns, which is where you want to get to, where it costs just so much more money invested into the ad account to get such little results back that let's look at other channels to go and penetrate into. And that's where you then get to, say, a second platform by scale. Let's say, hey, let's now go into this area.
So that kind of funnel play. So that kind of leads into my next question, where it's like, what signs do you typically look for when a single strategy just isn't enough? Is it that you are putting more into it and you're getting kind of like the law of diminishing returns? Like what is it you kind of see? What are some of the symptoms?
So what I see a lot is exactly that kind of thought of like, oh, it's a single strategy. It's not a fucking single strategy. It is I'm going to go and I'm going to build you out a strategy that is encompassing of everything, but planned. So we look at a client. You can know from looking at any business whether or not they have a play on both platforms, on all the platforms that exist in some capacity. And to be honest with you, I bet you I could find a reason for every single business to be on every single platform. You can find a reason. But if you never have planned for it from the beginning, you're essentially, when you get to a point where you say scale to that, you don't know what to do. And now you're shoehorning in that platform strategy into an existing marketing strategy. And there's nothing wrong with having to redevelop or redesign your strategy. But if you had something that was working and you try to shoehorn in something, again, it can be back to a great analogy from hockey. Is like people are like, oh, well, we just didn't want to disrupt the chemistry in the room. It was really good chemistry in the room by bringing in somebody from the outside, and it might break up, what we have going.
Sure.
Not to say that you can do that with ads, but it's just like if you did it at the start, if you planned out a complete strategy from the start of how you would do that and said, hey, we've identified that we will get to Meta. Say if we're going to start with Google, we're going to get to Meta at some point. And when we get to Meta, this is how we're going to go on to Meta. And It's at this stage with this thing. And there needs to be like smart goals set up to essentially say, at this point, we do this.
Okay.
Right? You can identify it's going to be necessity or scale at the very beginning.
Understood. One more high-level question, then I want to get into some more tactical stuff before we kind of round off here. Walk me through your thought process. If someone is going from advertising on one channel to multiple, how do you work through the idea of splitting up ad budget? Every business has a finite amount of ad budget that hopefully grows as you make more money, all this fun stuff. But how do you ensure that you're setting yourself up for success across multiple platforms versus potentially spreading yourself a little bit thin and now doing two platforms poorly when one was good?
It comes back to the necessity or scale. So if your strategy was necessity from the beginning, each platform was required. That means that at the beginning, you've also set the example with your client that, or as a business owner, you should have had your marketing agency set the example with you, or the expectation with you, that the budget is not a shared budget. This platform needs this amount of dollars and this platform needs this amount of dollars to get the following success metrics, right? Again, we're just results driven. Everything needs to be results driven. Are you making money? It doesn't matter, right? If you're not. So when you scale is not scale and piecemeal off of something that's working. Scale is scale and grow and add. So scale by nature, if you're like, hey, when we get to this point, we are now adding this budget based on these things, right? It's never, I have $5,000 on ad spend and you need to be on 5 platforms, right? Sure, we have clients who have that, but our recommendation 9 times out of 10 is to make sure you do 2 platforms well, 1 platform well, depending on what the results and what the expectations that the strategy says you're going to get. Yep. Because just doing, say, 5 platforms for the sake of being on all 5 platforms and just dividing the spend by that, at some point, as a optimization casualty, you're going to kill one of those platforms because, this one platform is doing way, way better. We need to feed a budget. Well, budget's not going up, so we're going to pull it from this place, right? And it happens regardless of your size of budget, be it a $2,000 budget or a $20,000 budget. It'll happen. I've seen it happen across many different accounts where, this one platform is really, really working. Let's move budget from something that's not working. That's a great optimization thing. You should increase things that are working and things that are not. But if you didn't plan for, each platform to have a dedicated budget to move around and play with, and you're pulling budget from another platform to optimize something on a different platform, you're inevitably shoehorning or kneecapping that platform.
Okay, understood. Okay, so getting more tactical. If a business owner is now trying to set up Google, Facebook ads, single, double play, whatever that might be, walk us through a couple of the key aspects that you set up on either platform when it comes to maximizing the efficiency, maximizing the return based on the intent and levers that you can pull on each platform.
I mean, the first things you set up are attribution. Like we've said it before, I'll probably say it again at some point. You set up attribution so that you can track your results. Like that's the first thing we set up. Then you build out your audiences. So you've identified your personas and your strategy, hopefully. Then you go and build those out, right? So you build them on the platform based on how the platform allows you to do audience targeting. So
what are some of the key differences with targeting on Meta versus Google?
I mean, the biggest difference is how they define audience targeting. Meta does it very much based on things that people are interested in, things that people like, whereas Google's based on intent, what they're searching for.
Okay.
Right? It's very simply described like that. There are nuances to everything, of course.
Sure. But at a high level, if you understand that.
Intent versus interest,
yeah.
Right, is the idea. I think off the top of my head, one of the things that you can target in Google is like people search for. Okay, URLs people visit. You don't get that same level of targeting on Meta, right? Where you're going to target people who are interested in education and they also are looking for jobs in education or education for their kids. It's a very different type of targeting versus what you get on Google. And that's because of the way that people are on those platforms. Meta's designed for discovery. Google's designed for intent.
Yep. Okay. So targeting, once you have the targeting set up on each account, what's the next step of setting these up to ensure that you're maximizing the use of each platform?
Filling out the account would be a great step. I mean, the amount of times that we've audited an account and you go in there and you're like, oh, for no strategic reason, and I always say it with strategic reason because with now how a lot of things like Performance Max and Advantage Plus are coming out, there's a lot of overlapping of mediums that each platform is allowed to kind of run. You set up one thing and it kind of just spreads it out to all the mediums that they have available.
Sure.
Companies may not want to be on certain mediums, so they might change what creative they feed into the campaign to avoid those. That's a strategic reason to not fill out a campaign.
And when you say mediums, what do you mean mediums?
A medium, like a display ad or an image ad or text ad, search ad.
So different sort of placements of where they're going to show up.
Yeah, exactly, placements. And so if you set up, say, a Performance Max campaign, okay, and in that Performance Max campaign, you gave it just search text ads. So that's all you give it, no images, no video, no nothing. You're only allowed to show up on certain platforms, or certain mediums then.
Sure.
Okay. If that was strategic, great. Maybe there's a reason for it. Not sure. In my example, you just run a search ad. But say you're an e-commerce business and you want to run a shopping ad with the PMax capabilities, you could give a PMax campaign just the shopping feed and not anything else and run it. It will work, and it is a workaround to gain certain advantages utilizing the limitations that are on the platform. But if that's not your goal and you just didn't fill it out for the sake of not filling it out, you're just kneecapping your own self, right? That just means that you went in and you had sort of a plan, then you got to the point, you got to play the game, and you're like, crap, I don't know what to do.
This is hard.
This is hard. No, or you're just like inexperienced. It's really easy to do a lot of research, and AI helps us do a lot of research nowadays to build out and develop a lot of stuff, and then you can go and fill in the blanks and whatnot. But then when you actually have to go do the work, you still got to do the work. You still got to know what to do. And if you don't know what you do, you can fuck it up. And that's where you get 80% right, 100% wrong.
There we go. Full circle on that one.
Full circle on that one.
I love it. Okay. Out of that setup you just walked through, you kind of walked us through, are there 3 common mistakes that you see businesses and marketers that you're pretty certain that few people listening to this right now are potentially doing with their ads that you would like to kind of set them in the right direction?
So three kind of basic error. I mean, fucking with it too much is one.
Okay, great.
And
Yes.
that is their
Profanity, you really need to understand
you really
profanity
need,
on front of that one. Pay attention.
no, that one really, because there is a point of like, just leave it.
Yeah,
Let
sure.
it work. There are some campaigns where, hey, it's working, don't mess with it, right?
Sure.
Make sure monitor it, make sure that it's doing what you're intending, but don't,
Hey, Jason.
but don't, but don't screw with it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, if it's working, if it's not ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Okay. I like it.
In the inverse, there is, I mean, the same kind of vein, actually. There is, don't forget about those ones. That's another thing that always I see happening is like, oh, well, this campaign was running great. And then it wasn't it wasn't actually. And then the third would be incorrect attribution setup leads to misleading results. And those misleading results lead to misleading gains where there actually aren't any.
Sure.
We had a client who, in our discovery calls with them, they were telling us how they have a 70 x ROAS.
70?
70x ROAS in a discovery call with us. And they were like, oh no, our business is great. Everything's awesome. This is what the number
Are they bajillionaires?
No. Go figure. And so I was like, okay, well then there shouldn't be a whole lot to do in the audit. We open up the audit, we go, you were tracking essentially someone opening up a website as a highly converting action. And that one was set to primary, and because that was set to primary, water as it runs downhill takes the path of least resistance. Well, Google will optimize when set to maximize conversions for the path of least resistance. You're an e-commerce brand and no one was buying your product, but because this number said a big number, you thought it was going well.
They were seeing a 70x yet not getting any sales.
Because the 70x was attributing to it to the product value on the page that was loaded.
Well, good job they found us. Fantastic. Okay. Question from the audience, yes? We have someone calling in right now. Yeah, can we help you? What's your name? What's your name, by the way? Tom, okay, yeah, we got Tom, the producer. Yeah, how can we help you, Tom?
I'd love to know a few examples of like cool ways where you can use both Meta and Google under one sort of strategy.
Okay, so to repeat the question, what are some cool ways that you can combine Meta and Google in the same strategy? What are some tactical levers that you pull to put both accounts together and have them working in unison?
So let's go back to how each platform naturally finds people. Discovery and intent. People discover you on Meta really, really easily. So I want to generate a giant audience to my website so that I can target them on Google. Well, I can run ads that are designed to drive website traffic, designed to be seen, and all about brand and awareness on Meta to filter and drive that traffic into my website. Then using GA4, I can create an audience of people who came from there and then target that on Google Ads using specific messaging geared towards those people because I knew where they came from, to then drive them into a purchase decision.
Okay.
So essentially, Meta becomes my top of the funnel, and Google is my bottom.
So basically, Meta, as you said, is a good audience builder. People that are unaware to problem aware, yet they're not sure where they're going to buy, where they're going to put their money. You can target them on Meta and get them to more product aware, high intent, so then you can target them on Google and get them to make a buying decision. But they're not going to necessarily make that buying decision very easily on Meta itself.
It depends on your product, right? It really depends on your product. If your product sells well, I come back to the true classic representation. That product sells extremely well on Meta because of who is looking for it and when. Meta has shopping ads for e-commerce, and they do extremely well with brands that are designed for it. Like we run shopping ads for our e-bike client. Of course we do. It's a very easily purchasable item based on the right person at the right time. But say you were a $10,000 product, right? A car. Let's go back to the car analogy. You're a car, and you're running a shopping ad for that car on Meta, or you're running a VLA on Google. Well, the person who's most likely going to buy that car first will come from Google.
Explain VLA, please.
Vehicle listing ads again.
Okay, great.
That person will come from there before they'll come from Meta in, I'd say, 9 out of 10 of ads. Because that is just how that person is typically looking for that piece of merchandise. They're doing research on it. They're comparing it. They're doing those things whereas Meta is an impulse buy, right? And when you're in, and it's not to say you can't sell things that aren't impulse buys on Meta, but it's so easy to, right? Have you bought anything from an Instagram ad?
Yeah.
Yeah. How much did it cost?
You want to ask me what it was?
Yeah, sure. What was it? It
It was a beard straightener.
was a beard straightener.
Yes, sir.
And how much did the beard straightener cost?
$60.
$60. Question for you.
Great purchase.
At what point, at what dollar amount would you have reconsidered buying it right then and there?
Reconsider as in like, should I get this?
Should I do this? Come back to it later.
Oh man, getting close to that 3-digit $100, I'd be like, I don't know.
Right? And there's a reason for that. Is because at that point you're going, okay, well, if I'm spending this much money, what else is out there? And then where do you go? Where do you go to search for that? Are you going to continue researching other beard straighteners on Meta?
No, I'm going to go to Amazon.
Or Google, right? Google is still the top search engine. YouTube is the second. Amazon's where you could go and find if you just want straight products, yes.
Sure.
But if you want to discover more things and get reviews and stuff, you have consumer reviews on Amazon, but then you have other access to more information on Google.
Sure.
Right? And that's where you get into customer journey stuff. But not to say that any brand, when they need to be on both platforms, you just need to have a plan and a reason for both platforms. Our e-bike client is on both platforms to drive sales. But we also heavily rely on Meta to build their brand and their awareness and help them stand out.
Boom. I like it. Okay. I want to finish off with, I call it a truth bomb. That's what I wrote down on my notes today.
You wrote truth bomb?
I literally wrote truth. Did you read my notes for today's? That's crazy.
I don't read notes.
That's crazy.
I don't take
like,
I don't take notes. I don't read notes.
I'm gonna send it over to you so you can. He's like, yeah, I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it.
Did you read my notes? No.
No.
So truth bomb. We talked tactical, we talked high level and whatnot, and I hope that this has been valuable for a lot of people that are looking into advertising that are just been feeling like they've been spinning their tires. In your experience, what separates the businesses that make ads work, regardless of platforms, from the ones that never figure it
out? Strategy and planning. Strategy, planning, and I mean, capability to an extent. Like, I've met people who are like, oh, I just turned on an ad and it works. I've met maybe less than 5 that have done that in my lifetime.
Sometimes you can get lucky, hey?
Even a blind mouse finds cheese.
I feel like that's easy for blind mouse, no? They probably have a really good scent, I would imagine.
I thought that's the saying, okay? Fucking harass me about my isms. The idea that how do you say it? It's about planning to do something, right? And so you are highly and more likely to succeed if you have a strategy, if you have a plan in mind, and then you, in that plan, should also identify who needs to do this work, right? And I always look at it like this. You either have someone internally who is trained and capable and knows how to do paid advertising or social ads, or you hire someone who is capable of doing that. Because when you are doing it yourself, you are then self-teaching yourself how to use a platform, how to do all this stuff, and making the mistakes and paying the bill.
Okay.
Right? There's only one person who is subject to being wrong in that scenario, and it's you. Whereas if you partner with someone like an agency like us, right, or internal hire, you get hopefully the knowledge base, right? You get collaborative planning and strategy making, so you get multiple opinions on how to do something, and then you can build out to where you need to go. And you are then the one footing the bill. But if the execution is wrong, you have the ability to go why to whoever is executing on that.
Yep.
Right? You can't only blame yourself, right? Which is why, like, we partner with a lot of companies and we become their marketing department in so many instances, because it's so much easier for them to go, I pay you for your expertise and your capabilities so that I don't have to worry about that and I can continue working on my business at what I'm good at, right?
Sure.
I'm terrible at ice skating.
Me too, actually.
Yeah.
Let's go, brother.
So I'm probably not going to play for the Canucks anymore.
It's actually blasphemy because I'm from Newfoundland, and all of my friends growing up would they look like, all the hockey boys look like figure skaters on ice, and it was insane. And then I was just standing on the side drinking my hot chocolate, just watching them have fun. That's a little flash of the past. Sorry, continue. Does that resonate with you? Is that your child? Is that your childhood as well?
I just like a deer. I'm like a giraffe or a deer on ice, or just like I can't stop. The boards are what
I can't stop either. Yeah.
Stopping's hard.
Let's go, brother. Let's go. Can you cross over?
If I can't stop, do you think I can cross over?
I can cross over.
Okay.
I'm not fist bumping you for that one.
No, I'm not fist bumping for that one. But the idea is, if I'm not very good at skating, I'm not going to go play for the Vancouver Canucks next year.
For sure.
Right?
Just get better.
But tell me how many members of the Vancouver Canucks are very, very good at doing paid ads?
Probably very few. Well, I don't know. I would imagine.
I would imagine they've probably focused on. I'm pretty sure they've been focusing their attention elsewhere, right?
Probably.
It's the same idea. You're a business owner. You put all your time and effort to growing your business. Is your business a marketing company? No? Oh, well, it's probably not been focused on being good at marketing.
For sure. It's something that you almost have to realize it costs you more to try to figure it out yourself and put it in the same few decades that we have as a culmination of experience here, rather than just outsourcing, paying us for our time for the time being.
I think my favorite meme in the last 5 years has been the fuck around and find out meme, where it's like a graph. The more you fuck around, the more you find out.
Yeah, I like that one too, yeah.
The only difference is that line represents money spent, right? You can pay to make mistakes. That's fine. But at some point, you either need to stop paying to make mistakes and start paying someone to do it right, or you just don't have the money to pay for it anymore.
You either pay with your time or money, I guess.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you have the money to pay for it, why would you spend your time? Because time is the thing that you do not get back.
Exactly.
And money you can always spend and make more. But time spent trying to master marketing for 3 years, when at a click of a button we can do more in 2 afternoons than what they can try to figure out over the next 2 to 3 years. Why?
Oh,
you have to ask yourself why.
We have a client who has a 7-year-old ad account. And in 7 years, we've been able to do in the last 5 months what they couldn't do in 7 years.
Not trying to flex here, but maybe we are. Fantastic. Okay, well, listen, I think that's it for today. Every episode that we put out going forward is going to be built on this real hard-won lessons that we learn from the trenches. Everything we speak about is coming from helping our clients grow, win, and connect with the people that they're here to serve. We're sharing these things, as we just mentioned, because we're sharing things that we wish we knew 10 years ago, so we don't have to pay down the same ignorance tax that we did in order to get to where we are. So if you found this valuable, subscribe on your favorite platform. Check us out at setsail.ca to learn more about how we can help scale your business.